question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is episode 73 of the Throwdown with Matt. It is a Tuesday night. We are live on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. And tonight we're throwing down with Atlanta-based pro wrestler, the Air Devil, Dante Darko. Dante is an accomplished singles wrestler and also tags with a previous guest, Neji Ichiban, as the Dark Passion Assassins. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the introduction, Matt. How are you tonight?
I am absolutely wonderful, if not a little bit cold.
Very cold. Very, very cold. Can't get over how cold it is. I can't get over how we're in the South and it's this cold.
I know. And apparently down along the Gulf Coast, they've got it even worse than we do.
Yeah, it's a tough one out there right now. But hopefully we pass this over quick.
Yeah, we'll see. But for those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, throw them in the chat, and we'll either tackle them as we go or do a little Q&A session at the end.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and most obvious question, Dante, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
All right. I have been wrestling for 4 years now. Well, technically, we're not at the 4-year mark yet. I started wrestling late February. I can't really give you a day, but that last weekend of February 2021. And we're now coming up on that 4 years later. And, granted, a few weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. It's been a ride. It's been a very, very crazy ride. It's been nonstop up and down. How do we get to the next part? Stay driven, stay hungry, eat, the BS and keep trudging through. But 4 years, 4 long, tough, great, amazing years.
Awesome. And how long have you been tagging with Neji, and how did that come about? How did the Dark Passion Assassins thing happen?
The Dark Passion Assassins actually came about because of so Neji and I were both members of the top team. The top team consists of 10 students that came from Atlanta WWA Force School, AR Fox's school, and we kind of just started out as, most groups start out kind of just like a clique kind of vibe, where it was just a bunch of friends backstage, and we started facing each other a lot more, teaming up with each other a lot more at all these different indies within the school, within storylines in the school. So that's how the top team came about, just a group of friends, group of brothers. And then Renegade Enforcer, the promoter of RIPW, the new kid in town as far as like wrestling shows go in the Atlanta area, He saw some chemistry between me and Neji, and he wanted to try something new between both of us. And even both of us were kind of hesitant about it in the sense that we just never really had teamed before. We didn't know what kind of chemistry we would have. And ironically enough, coming up on a year later as well, Neji and I started teaming around late February on the very first show of RPW, which happened on the last weekend of February last year. So we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the Assassins, but a year later, we've come to find out that Neji and I have really, really good chemistry together, and we kind of we mesh a lot with one another in terms of how we bounce ideas off each other, how we move in the ring, how we feel as if things need to get accomplished, how we get from point A to point B to point C in the ring. And yeah, so that's how really the Assassins came about, was just off of a whim, was just trying out different combinations of people in Top Team, and Neji and me just so happened to be one of them.
Gotcha. So have you trained pretty much strictly at WWA4 aside from possibly some seminars and stuff, or have you done any training elsewhere?
Yep, I'm a A4 bred through and through wrestler. I've picked up from how I see it, I got trained by AR Fox. If we really look at the leveling there, it doesn't get much better than that, you know?
No, it sure doesn't. It sure
So
doesn't.
I got some of the best training there is, in my opinion, but I have definitely picked up a lot of things throughout, you know, my 4 years, from a lot of reputable names, even non-reputable names. Like, you can get a very, you know, good, decent bit of knowledge from anyone you can come across. It really all depends on perspective and how you're interpreting their, you know, what they're saying, and how they're trying to convey as well. Like, sometimes you learn right then and there. Sometimes 6 months later things click, you know. But I've
Right.
learned from everybody throughout this business. That's how I've kind of got trained, aside from my time at the four.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in virtually anything that you pursue, it is so important to just be a sponge, just soak it
Mm-hmm.
all in, and do what you can to make what you absorb yours. So,
Right, right. You have to, what I like to always think about is you have to kind of know your craft on all sides, you know, like
mhm,
the in ring, out of the ring, production, backstage. You want to know a little bit of everything. You don't need to be good at everything, but you need to be decent at everything.
right, right. Speed round.
Okay.
AJ Styles.
Oh, the best, the very best, the GOAT, our Kobe Bryant of our generation, the
Yep.
guy comes, and we get to claim him as a Georgia own. Like, come on now,
Yes, we do.
the
Yes,
best.
we do.
The best.
Yep.
We get claimed to one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, bar none.
Yep. Yep. Gainesville, Georgia's own.
Number one. Like, if you're looking at wrestlers of our generation, there are some that you can look at right now, but I would consider the ones that you would think of as right now as our next generation. If we're looking at AJ's still in the game. He's still in this generation. So
Oh yeah.
he's still number one to me personally.
Yep.
hmm
Absolutely. Yeah, his I mean, and to still be operating at the level he's operating, you know, at his age. Not that he's
Right.
ancient of days or anything, but I mean,
Right.
you know, he's not a spring chicken. But to
Right.
still
And
be,
to
you know,
he's been
doing
doing this for
this,
so long, and he's been doing it. Like, one thing that I always bring up about AJ Styles' career is you can't tell me one time where AJ Styles was bad.
right,
There was never a
right,
time where he wasn't having either best match on the card, in a prominent position, the world champion, probably. Like, you look at any point in time, if I just told someone, yo, what was AJ doing in X year, this day, this month? 9 times out of 10, it's probably some reputable story, or he's the champion somewhere. And that says it all right there.
absolutely. So, in terms of the early stages of your training, what would you say was the most challenging part? What was the most difficult thing for you to wrap your mind and your body around?
Um, the hardest part for me personally was just kind of learning how to interpret a lot of the things outside of the wrestling aspect. The physical part is always going to be hard, even for those people that come in with a certain background that, helps them garner a way towards getting a good in-ring acumen quicker. It's still always going to be grueling physically, no matter what level you're on athletically already. But for me, it was learning how to sit down, shut up, and interpret what I was watching, and kind of uh, like a catch-22 of the whole thing is when you're new and you're trying to study what makes a good match, but you as a new wrestler don't know what goes into making a good match quite yet. So
Right.
you're trying to break down little things analytically to try to piece together like what makes a good match, and you're not even quite sure if this is what makes this match good or not. So then you try it yourself in your next match that you have coming up and seeing what reception you get, and then maybe a lightning bolt, a light bulb goes off right there in your mind, and you're like, okay, so that is what made that match good, because it just happened to make my match good and the crowd reacted to it. And it was something that I can now take away from this. Now, 4 years later, like I interpret most matches like that. I'll watch any match and pull something very small detail away that could have added so much more that, if someone comes up to me and asks, I'll present it. Often I'll just keep it to myself and keep it in the back of my mind for my next match and be like, okay, remember that last person did this one thing that you didn't like. So make sure you try to, do that yourself and see what kind of reception it gets, what reaction it gets. It might have not been a big detail that you thought was as important as you thought of. It might have been a really critical detail that really added a lot to the match. You don't really know till you
Gotcha.
try, kind of deal.
Gotcha. Well, doing some looking around these last couple of days, I actually found a highlight reel of yours on YouTube. And for people that are not familiar with what you do, I'm going to share my screen and play this little highlight reel just so people can get a taste of Dante Darko that might not be
Okay.
familiar. So
Cool.
let me.
Hey, nigga, I know you care about ghost shit, pretty things, but like, can you tell me what you don't give a fuck about, nigga? Like, what don't you give a fuck about, nigga?
I don't give a fuck about shit. Aye. Nice chain, red bone mains, chain swing, like pretty things. Kick a bitch, call me Luke Kane. Dumb bitch, give me dumb ring, yo. Wrist wet like rain. Nike swoosh, white cocaine. Iceberg, that's Gucci Mane. Tall racks, like Yao Ming. For school, I don't fuck with rules. Laid back, nigga, always keep a tool. You a pussy, nigga, you a fucking fool.
Wait, what up?
Bitches look at me like I am a jewel. I be posted with your bitch in the pool. Blast off, wait, jet fuel. For this world, man, these bitches so cruel. What you want from me, Mercedes AMG? Push a start, bitch, no keys. They don't gotta know about you and me. You the only one I know and I trust. Baby, you my angel in a stardust. Niggas always wanna act so tough. Laid out, see the cuz. I be with my soldiers eating chicken wings. Nigga, you can hang, this is not your game. Black fit, go fame. Long clip, go bang bang. Black fit, go fame. Long clip, go bang bang. Black fit, go fame.
Yay! Yeah, no, that was. I haven't seen those clips in so long. That was a video that I had curated for myself and made for myself early in my career. I haven't seen those clips in forever. Still hits though. Those are still cool.
Yeah.
Still
You
hits.
know, seeing how you wrestle, I see little hints of Sabu.
Mm,
Um, I see, like we just talked about, I see some AJ Styles.
yeah.
I can definitely see some influences.
Yeah, I have a large respect for a lot of cruiserweights, flyers, junior heavyweights, whatever you want to call them, like throughout the years. That's where a lot of my upbringing throughout wrestling, that's where I kind of resided. That's where I always gravitated towards whenever I was watching a show. Who were the entertaining, flippy guys who are, I'm also a humongous fan of technicians and technical wrestling as well. That's why
Hmm.
AJ Styles is up in there
Yeah,
for me because aside from the flying stuff, great technician in the ring as well. But yeah, my influences reside around that area. Sabu, AJ Styles, great comparisons right there. I love that. Appreciate that.
absolutely. So, I'm presuming you've probably been a fan of this stuff the majority of your life. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, very accurate.
So, what would you say is your earliest wrestling related memory?
My first earliest related wrestling memory. I try to keep this answer consistent to all podcasts, I always say, because it quite literally is. I've consciously thought about, were there other experiences that I could personally remember that were like my first experiences? But my first conscious experience that I can always remember was around the age of 5 or 6. SmackDown. It was Rey Mysterio's debut against Chavo Guerrero on SmackDown.
Oh, nice.
I was a SmackDown kid. I didn't. I grew up and my mom and I didn't have cable, so I was always watching on UPN back in the day.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that, I was a SmackDown kid, and that was my earliest memory where I was really hooked on this character of Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was the first one that really roped me into all of it.
Yep. So, going a little further in life, was there a particular point? Was like a turning point that you remember where you started to get the feeling that you wanted to actually try to do this?
No, I was one of those weird cases where I often say that I never really thought about becoming. I never sat down and told myself I'm gonna become a professional wrestler. I started doing some, I guess you can call them backyard shows. They weren't in a backyard. It was in a big warehouse like hangar kind of vibe. There was a ring there. There was a crowd there, a decent crowd there, about 200 people. And I was just going in there untrained with uh, some of my friends, and we were just kind of having matches in front of people with no rhyme, reason, no storytelling, no nothing involved in them, just happening. And a buddy of mine, another wrestler by the name of Troy Carter, we both kind of just looked at each other. He was the one that got me involved in the whole backyarding gig, and I told him, I was like, "Look, man. Oh, big important part of the story. COVID hit. COVID hit, and the
Hmm.
relief checks came in. And once that money hit my account, I looked at him. I was like, "Look, man. You got this relief money. I got this relief money. We now both have enough money to just sign up at the four and really hone in on this dream. And we don't have to drive all the way to Rome, Georgia to backyard. Be it, yes, it's in front of a nice, decent crowd, but we're not getting taught anything here. And we're definitely not getting taught what AR Fox can teach us, that we know he can teach us."
Yep.
So we up and we went to the four, and the rest is history. Like, that's how that all came about.
Awesome. So, away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
I don't look, man. I don't do much outside of wrestling. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I've had to take a look around plenty of times. Like, I need to find new things outside of wrestling because wrestling can be a headache at times when that's all you're just focused on and surrounded by. But as of right now, I'm kind of content with my position. I do a lot of graphic design work. I'm working
Oh,
as a
that's
graphic
cool.
designer. Yeah, I'm working for a graphic designer for, ironically, wrestling promotions who are, helping my business on the side, making match graphics or doing whatever they need, new logo work, anything I can lend myself to. And I really enjoy, aside from, I guess I can call this a hobby. I watch a lot of movies. I'm a humongous like cinephile, movie buff. Get really deep into the analytics of movies. I love learning about the making of movies, the behind the scenes of movies, the behind the scenes of how things are made and what goes into making stuff good. I'm hoping to one day grow from this wrestling stuff into a production role where I can help make these kind of stories play out on a big stage one day. And I'll have all of it. I'll have someone else's billions to be like, okay, I need a monster truck, I need this, and I'm gonna shoot the coolest scene ever. Just let me get that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and really, what you were saying was kind of a perfect segue into this next question because, I mean, this is basically a wrestling oriented show, but I also like kind of talking a little bit of pop culture. So, are you watching or listening to anything cool right now? Because I'm always looking for recommendations for stuff to check out. Have you seen any good movies lately or watched anything good on TV?
Yeah, I just wrapped up Squid Game season 2, and unless you've watched Squid Game season 1, you're unfortunately not going to know what's happening with Squid Game season 2. But if you do know what happened in Squid Game season 1 and you watch season 2, I feel like watchers are going to have certain emotions and feelings about what happens in there. But personally, I really loved it. I loved the fact that they did season 2 how they did season 2, and then they've already announced season 3 for June 2025, and that's about 6 months away, 5 months away, whatever. And the first season 1 to season 2 was a 3-year span of waiting, and I understand it's a long
Right.
time to wait. But this being that it's 5 months apart it tells me that one, they filmed season 2 and 3 in one sitting. That's why they're able to set it up like this. That's why it
Right.
took so long for them to get season 2 out. And I like that they're looking at it like, okay, we could easily, the first season of Squid Games was 9 episodes. If they put out 7 episodes in the second season, they can put out 9 in the third season, as opposed to putting out 1 episode for season, or 1 season of season 2 at like 17 episodes.
Right.
Just break it up a little. It builds up the suspense. People are impatient. I understand that. But, gotta just watch. Gotta sit and watch and wait. That's what I talk about with wrestling, is like, you gotta just sit, watch, and wait.
Oh yeah. And so many people have the attention span of a fruit fly. and and I love a slow burn storyline.
Right.
But there are people that it just drives them nuts because they want instant gratification.
No,
But
and I get it. Sometimes you want that really big payoff, but you have to understand that, and this applies a lot to wrestling as well. Like, if you just follow along with the ride of it and just let everything play out, now granted, the payoff has to always be worth it. That's the most important thing on the, movie end, show end, whatever. If you've ever seen my example of this is Game of Thrones. If you've ever seen Game of Thrones is so good up until like the last season, and then it's just so bad. And I went into this with people telling me like, "Oh, it's great, but it's bad at the end." And I'm like, "Well, let me formulate my own opinion, because I feel like my opinion of what makes things good at the end and what tells a good story is different from yours." I watched it. No, it was bad. Everyone was so right. So you got to be in there for the slow burn, and the payoff has to be worth it. And that's what really makes a good story. If you're looking for good stuff to watch right now, Squid Games 2, the new seasons of Invincible, the new seasons of The Boys. What movies have I seen lately? I just watched Wicked. Wicked is awesome. Gladiator 2 is awesome. What else? Nosferatu. That new Nosferatu
What's that?
movie.
What
Really
was that
good.
good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a lot of talking. It was a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue. It was,
Yeah,
I
so
think, a
very
two,
dialogue heavy.
yeah, two, I think it's a 2 hour and 10 minute runtime, which isn't too long, but when you pad that with a lot of dialogue, it's like, oh, but the shots of the Count vampire Nosferatu thing, those were cool. I'll give it that.
Hmm. Well, I just took a glance over at the Instagram chat, and a whole lot of people are in there. Neji's in the chat. Don of Commentary said he loves to see the Daredevil on here, and unapologetically L says Dante's a cool guy, very talented and underrated. And
Aw.
and then Don says strikes, grapple, flying. Darko is the truth.
Ooh, look at all these people. I love them all. All good folks.
Yeah,
All good folks. I appreciate all the love from all of them. Underrated. I'm just
absolutely.
trying to make it out here. I appreciate it so much.
So, so you mentioned that your day job is basically graphic design.
Hmm.
Did you go to school for that, or is that something you just kind of naturally picked up on, or how did that come about?
I have an older brother that dips his toes into every single aspect of computers that I know of. From he's made music to he's done graphic design to even today he has a work from home job where he's working on his computer. So, um, growing up, I had kind of found an interest in photo editing and started playing around with photo editing on my phone. And he saw that I had an interest in it, and he downloaded Photoshop from his hard drive onto my computer and gave me Photoshop. And that was about 6 years ago. And now I'm working, making promotional work for promotions, really anywhere who contracts me. I've done promotional work for nightclubs, hookah lounges, wrestling promotional stuff, all kinds of stuff. And I've
Nice.
never been formally, I guess, taught. I've never taken a course. I've never taken a class. I've taken about like two free courses that I found online, but it
Hmm.
all ended up being stuff that I was already familiar with as it is. So it didn't pose that much of an issue at all, much of a challenge for me to do.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm all kind of self-taught. At most I watch a good YouTube tutorial every once in a while for sure. Like if I definitely don't know how to do something, I'll look it up. But I consider YouTube as the best professor nowadays,
Oh,
anyways.
absolutely. I mean, you
Yeah,
know, if you want to know about anything, there's probably a YouTube video about it. I mean,
right.
it's
And
so
especially with my field, there's so many different things to do with photo editing. So, one click over here turns this picture like this, move the mouse over there, it turns it completely different. So, I often look at these tutorials, see what these tutorials have to offer, then switch stuff around that does, telling me to put this amount of whatever into a photo. I'll probably change up the numbers up, change up the coloring, and just see what it does for me and then work from there. I often use just tutorials to get me to where I want to be and then take it from there.
absolutely. So let's see here. Speed round. Jonathan
Okay.
Gresham.
Oh, Jonathan Gresham was someone I was studying very early in my career. Jonathan Gresham was someone that came from the four early on, and
Hmm.
he was
Another Atlanta
someone.
guy.
Yeah, he was someone who I was always looking into, like, just studying. I love his. Again, I'm a huge sucker for a good technician, a good technical
Hmm.
wrestler. So his style, and also just the overall, I guess, aura that he carries. Very, he's not the biggest guy, and I'm not going to say he's very small. I'm not going to do that to that man, but he's not the biggest guy in any locker room. But it's his ability to out wrestle anybody in that locker room that really poses him as a threat, and I love that. I love that whole. dynamic of his character and that whole story built into his character. Jonathan Gresham's great. Another A-tier wrestler right there.
Yep. So you mentioned before we went on the air that you're from. I guess you're originally from Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
What part of Jersey are you from?
I was part of North Bergen, New Jersey, this super small town. I was born in Secaucus, New Jersey. So
Okay.
I was born there, lived there for about, I want to say 6 months. My mom moved when I was very young to North Bergen. And then we moved to North Bergen, and I grew up there for the first 10 years of my life. So I always say I'm from there. Grew up here too, but from there.
Gotcha. So what would you say? I mean, since Atlanta is basically kind of your hometown now,
Yeah.
what is your favorite thing about Atlanta?
What is there not to love about Atlanta? And that's like a good and bad thing right there. Like I look at Atlanta as a place where anything and everything can happen at any time, and you're kind of always in the mix. And especially being from where I'm from in Marietta, I'm only 30 minutes away from the city, so I'm often, be it for a show, be it just to hang out with friends somewhere amongst the city. And in Atlanta, you can find yourself getting into something. You can find something along the, up and down the strip, like on the street. You can find something to do. You can find somewhere to go inside to eat. You can go find somewhere that's playing music. You can do anything out there. So Atlanta is great. There's so much I can say bad. The best way to put it is Atlanta is the most like beautiful, gorgeous, most disgusting, annoying city I've ever been a part of. I love Atlanta so much.
Yeah. Yep. I will completely agree with you.
Yeah, Atlanta's great. And just growing up here has taught me so much about the South as well, being that I'm from Jersey. I feel like there's no other place to grow up in the South than the heart of Atlanta, like around. I wouldn't say the heart of Atlanta because I know people quite literally live in Atlanta, but good 30 minutes away. I don't like to be in the city as it is. I like to be like right on the outskirts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they say that the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11. So tell me about in-ring Dante. Tell me about the Daredevil and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
My character is very much myself, very turned up. I'm very dedicated. I'm very scrappy. I'm very willing and able to fight and scrap for what I want, what I believe for. Very moral and goal driven. So I think my character in ring, through the desperation, through the style of my character, through just how I even carry myself, just like we said about Jonathan Gresham, I'm not the biggest person in the locker room, so I have to utilize my scrappiness. I have to not be able to, be forced down by bigger folks. I have to be more. I have to be smarter than my opponents, and I have to be more agile than my opponents, and I have to just kind of add that extra essence to myself to win. And my character reflects that in real life in the same sense that that's kind of just who Dante. I'm not gonna say my last name on here, but that's not who Dante is outside of wrestling. He's very goal driven. He's, when graphic designing, I'll have 4 different projects open. I have 2 monitors here, 4 different projects open on each of them, and I'll be focusing on one over here, and then I'll close that one out, work on this one, close that one out, open up this one over here, and work on this one. I'm very, I try to be very goal and scrappy and just get at it, go-getter kind of attitude. And that's who I think I am in the ring, as well as like willing to go for it, I've jumped off the top rope with a trash can on my head before onto people. So
Yeah,
I'm willing to go for it.
that's awesome. You were mentioning, about not necessarily being the biggest guy in the locker room. It's funny. I'm a smaller guy myself, and so when I was, of the age where I could have considered going into wrestling, it was still very much the land of the giants. So, and I really dig seeing smaller, really athletic guys making a career of this stuff now. I just find it very inspiring to actually see the smaller guys doing well now. So.
Yeah, you hear stories all throughout history of that big shift in time where it was like, you went from Hogan to Brett, and then you went
Yeah.
from Brett to guys like JBL Batista, and then you went
Yeah.
from, they're even past that with like Strowman and Lashley, and like it's still the land of the giants, and wrestling as a whole, we accept that we are getting into a aesthetic business where you can't stick out. It's impossible to not stick out aesthetically when you're 7 feet tall in a room of 5,
Right.
6 foot tall people. So,
Yeah.
that always benefits anybody. And when, you're my size or a regular person size and you kind of fall into the bunch, you have to learn how to stand out, stick out, keep yourself at the front of everyone's attention, the promoter, the locker room, the crowd, everyone. You want to try to keep yourself in that position. Be scrappy about that. Be really mindful about that. Make sure you're actually doing what you can to try to push for that for yourself. I'm always of the mindset that you shouldn't be directly involved with your booking decisions, but you should always have something in the back pocket for yourself, just in case. You never know what promoter is going to come up to you. Hey man, I want to use you. I don't know where to put you. Oh,
Yeah.
Put me here with this person. We could do this. We can get this amount of months out of it. We'll generate this amount of people for it. I promise you. And that's all it really is. Is just kind of network, build that up.
Absolutely. So tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it? Thoughts coming out of it? All of that good stuff. Just lay it on us.
My first match was against Curry at the WWA 4. It was I consider this my first real match, my first debut match in front of an audience. And it was interesting. It was very interesting. I opened up. I didn't brace for a shot very early on in the match. Got kicked right in the gut early on in the match. Lost my breath immediately and had to kind of recoup from there. But from there, the match was pretty solid. We hit everything we needed to hit. It was pretty hard hitting. It was intense. And before I went into it, being that I'm a wrestler now, I would have told myself, hey, man, just go out there, have fun. You'll be fine. It's okay. Nothing is going to happen. After the match, I would have told myself, yeah, probably get a hand up next time because you're going to get kicked in the face. I got kicked in the face like good too. Curry's got a nice little kick on him. The luchador, the luchador from Ecuador, I believe him home. So I don't know, but he's got a nice little kick on him, and he made that very apparent in that match. I would have told myself, get a hand up, breathe, don't rush through everything, take my time. Let that moment sink in, especially of like, yo, this is your first match. Look at the crowd at some point, register that, get that memory of looking at the crowd, and just have fun. I guess that's ultimately the piece of advice I would have gave myself, is have fun.
Gotcha. Speed round.
Okay.
Bobby Fish.
Bobby Fish. Underrated, very underrated. I think underrated is even a mild word to use for him, because I feel like everyone recognizes how good he actually is.
Yeah.
So, underrated maybe in the popularity sense, but as far as an in-ring talent goes and just watching him, as a wrestler, you're kind of just like a magician watching magicians do magic tricks. You stop watching for the magic trick and you start watching for, the techniques utilized and how good they're utilized. And that's really what it comes down to. And Bobby Fish has been doing this for a very long time at a very competitive level at some of the highest places you can do it out of. And,
Yep.
has never really missed a beat too. Another A-tier talent right there.
Absolutely. So we've heard about the first match. Now, if you can narrow it down, tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
My favorite match that I've been a part of has to be there's two. It's really hard for me to kind of pick between the two, but the first one has to be a one-on-one versus Teriyaki about 1 year into our careers at the Four, a fellow top team member. Me and him had a very good chemistry early on, just even in training, outside of just our matches. We would find ourselves 20-30 minute matches just on the fly, just doing nonsense, just calling spots, just out loud, not calling anything, just feeling each other out, whatever. And we found that we had a really good chemistry. And then when we had our first match, it was very hard hitting. It was very aggressive and intense. They say like friends fight the hardest, and
Yep.
what that match was the definition of. It's one of the hardest hitting matches I've had, but it's also one of my best matches I've had. And then the other one I would say would be the 4-on-4 multi-man tag that Top Team and I had in Naptown Pro Wrestling in Indiana against the Founders. We had Calvin Tankman, Sean Kemp, Chase Holiday, and Alice Crowley. It was a big 4-on-4, almost like Survivor Series type of vibe. And we had been built that year as one of the big heel factions there. And it was just a really cool moment to spend with like that bunch specifically. Calvin Tankman, Chase Holiday, and Sean Kemp. Alice Crowley was the only one that I hadn't had watched prior to this moment. But I had watched Calvin Tankman on the indies before I even got in there. I had watched Sean Kemp and Chase Holiday on DPW before I got in there, and I got to face them, and that was one of my bigger moments. So, yeah, those two matches
cool.
right there, 1A and 1B.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, Teriyaki is somebody that I'm working on trying to get on the show. He seems to be pretty busy, but man, he's another one that I would just love to get on here and talk with.
I'll tell you right now, pal, he's evasive. He's a hard one to lock down. Terry's a busy bee. He is very much booked at a lot of places. His trajectory last year was insane. Going into this year, it's looking like it's going to be even more crazy. Jay Lucas too, superstar Jay Lucas, same deal. Trajectories are going crazy. Them boys are booked up every weekend, and they do have shoot jobs still, so they are busy.
It's a nice problem to have, though.
Right, and that's what we always talk about. We always talk about, we're blessed. We asked for this. We often talk about, like, we say it's hard now, but just wait till it gets to, like, we're dealing with real money and real contracts and real travel schedules, and we have to be here, there, and we're contracted to be there, and there. So we have to be there.
Yep. So what is the longest that you have ever traveled to get to a match?
Naptown, them Indiana trips, any Midwest trip I've had to make, they usually clock in around 7 to 8 hours straight, depending on whether or not we're stopping in Kentucky beforehand. If we're stopping in Kentucky beforehand to maybe bunk up with some wrestlers, there are some wrestlers out in Kentucky that we do bunk up with sometimes. But if we're gonna make that's about 6 hours. If we're making a straight shot, about 7 to 8 hours, depending on which part of Indiana. That ride can be brutal.
No doubt.
Yeah, that ride can be brutal.
So, and I know everybody has them, but what would you say is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
The deer in headlights. Don't ever be a deer in headlights. No matter what is happening, if you're ever lost, if you don't know what's next, figure something out. Just do something. I think a
Yeah.
lot of
Don't just vapor lock.
yeah, don't just lock up in there. Whether you know what's coming, don't know what's coming, don't know what to do something. People often forget that the wrestling ring is a stage that we are like in front of people on. So you can quite literally do whatever. I don't care if you do a backflip randomly. Like the people will probably cheer. People are probably gonna be like, "Yo, that was a random ass backflip, but it was cool," you know. And then
Yeah.
just ask someone like, "Hey, what's next? Ref, anybody
Yeah.
help?" I got them stalled as much as I can.
Yep. So I know that, there are two main approaches to preparing for a match. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, or you can call it in the ring, or you can kind of do a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference?
um, okay, I prefer to call my matches, but I don't prefer to have my matches called fully. If it really, it's very situational. It always depends on my opponent and how much I know them, the chemistry I have with them. If, the difference really is, have I faced you one or two times, or have I faced you six or seven times? Because if I faced you six or seven times, I know what you do in the ring. I know you know that I know what you do in the ring. I can put myself in a position of a spot that you do, and you'll know what I'm trying to relay to you 9 times out of 10. If it's a newer opponent, be it newer to me or newer experience wise or newer, just new. If they're a
Right.
newer opponent, I will get very hands on with every detail that I can. I tend to be very detail oriented with my matches, anyways. I guess overall the question gets answered by my level of comfortability with you. If I'm very comfortable with you, I wouldn't look to call much, because that's how we're gonna get the best of whatever we can get. You know me, I know you. You've wrestled me 6 times, I wrestled you 6 times. You know what I do, I know what you do. Let's just do that. As opposed to someone who's new, who doesn't know what I do and I don't know what they do. I'm going to be very on top of every little detail I can be on top of, how things are connecting, how much time is in between these certain things. Yeah, so it's a very, very situational thing, but the answer overall is just my level of comfortability determines that.
Gotcha. Speed round. Sammy Callahan.
Oh my God, I met Sammy Callahan at the Battery in Atlanta one time.
Did you
Great
really?
dude. Yeah, this was pre wrestling. I went as a fan to an Impact Wrestling show, and I met Sammy Callahan. He's so cool. I love Sammy Callahan. Sammy Callahan. I was watching Sammy Callahan when he had the crazy hair as the Callahan Death Machine with
Oh yeah.
Moxley in the Indies, like as a
Oh
child.
yeah.
Switchblades.
The Switchblade conspiracy. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Switchblades. I was watching all of his early stuff. He was one of those first people I really gravitated toward. The Jeremiah Crane stuff that he did.
Yeah.
All like I really kept up with his career. He's great, great guy,
Yeah.
and he's responsible for us really having the Rascals too. So like
Yeah.
he gave us the Rascals.
Yeah. And I feel like, if such a thing exists, I feel like he and Moxley are kind of wrestling soulmates
Oh
to
yeah,
some extent. I mean, they are cut from the same
they're
cloth.
yeah, two sides of the same coin, both of them.
Yeah.
Great
So,
talent.
so if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Um, I feel like being great on the mic. I feel like those are the ones that go down in history as the best wrestlers. If you really think about it, because some guys that you would consider moves guys or being in ring best in-ring wrestlers are really good microphone guys in their own right. But I feel like if you look at guys like, Ric Flair, you look at Ric Flair, you look at Dusty, you look at, here's where it gets muddy because I was going to say you look at guys like Eddie Guerrero, who's an amazing promo, but easily one of the best in-ring talents to ever exist.
For sure.
But as far as I'm concerned personally for myself, I would probably end up being a talker, just because I feel like a talker is what captivates people, especially nowadays in wrestling. If you asked me a few years ago, wrestling was very much what happened outside of the ring or what was happening in the segments, the story being told. Nowadays wrestling moves are very oversaturated. Canadian destroyers can be done every match. Flying whatevers can be done every match. So you can tell a story in the ring with the moves, but it's not really registered to the audience as much as the non-wrestling parts of the wrestling match. Those are the parts that are registered amongst the crowd. And I think those are the important parts of them, be it the talking, be it the segment, be it a moment in the match that happens that's not wrestling oriented, that's not moves happening. I feel like those are the ones that register the most with audiences. Prime example is like CM Punk's pipe bomb. All he did was sit up on the top of the ramp with a microphone.
Yeah.
While Cena was laying in the ring.
Yeah.
And nothing crazy is happening. He's just saying words.
Yeah.
But
it was magic. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And it was magic. It's not always the moves. It's not always, sometimes, yes, the moves can very much tell the story. But even then, you got to look deeper than that. Is it the moves telling the story, or is it the way that the person is receiving the move telling the story? Is it the selling that's telling the story?
Right. So do you have a preference yourself between working heel or babyface?
Yes, I prefer to work babyface because it's just, I feel easier to tell a story like that with my style, with how I carry myself and how I present my character. I often feel like, okay, I'm a little scrappy dude who's just trying to, be an underdog in a situation. So I feel like me working as a babyface can be easier to an extent. Working as a heel is funner though, like more fun. And I prefer to work as a babyface just for the simple fact of the story and what we're trying to deliver to the audience. Every audience can get behind the feel-good underdog story. Everyone always wants to see a good guy win. So it's easier to do that. But if I ever want to have a little fun, or if I ever get the opportunity to act as a heel, then I have the most fun. I get to talk smack. I get to do things I don't get. I get to poke eyeballs.
Yeah.
like it's just fun. It's way more fun.
Gotcha.
But babyface for the sake of just my character and my story and who I present myself as, It's cool though, because I get a lot of people behind me. The fans get behind me. I get little kids high-fiving me after shows and stuff. It's so cool.
Oh yeah. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you kind of watched it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little nugget you can pull from it.
I actually just rewatched it recently with my buddy Keelan Cole, another pro wrestler, another top team member. But we recently rewatched Kenny Omega and Okada 1, and we started watching Kenny Omega and Okada 2. And man, that match will make a grown man cry, man. The first one, great ending. And then what it kicked off that story of, the 60-minute Dominion match into Kenny having to win the G1 and get himself back into that position, being the first Gaijin to win the G1.
Yep.
That story I accredit to being the first story to really lump me in as a wrestling fan past just being a fan. That was the one that really got me like, yo, this wrestling stuff is way deeper. You know, I've been watching wrestling my entire life up until this point. I had seen the Kevin Steen run. I had watched the House of Truth run. I had watched all of these runs. But it wasn't until I watched the Kenny Okada trilogy where I was like, whoa, this is really hitting on a really emotional, deep level. And
Yeah.
that's where I started falling in love with the storytelling aspect, the emotional aspect of what wrestling can create past the, you know, we're just doing moves, we're just doing flips, we're just hitting each other really hard. We're, you know, what can we do outside of it? My favorite moment is when Kenny's about to get hit with a Rainmaker and he quite literally collapses because of exhaustion. And that's the only reason he didn't get his head taken off just now, is because
Yeah.
he quite literally couldn't stand. Like when a person thinks like that, that's when I've watched that match easily 5, 6, 7 times, and it's an hour-long match.
Oh yeah.
And every single time I get chills watching it, goosebumps, because I'm like, yo, they're cooking. This is a high grade 5-star Wagyu right here. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're cooking with fire.
Well, you know, Kenny is definitely on my Mount Rushmore. And
Yeah,
one of the things that I really dig about Kenny is how he completely and wholeheartedly embraced Japan. I
right,
mean, to the point that he became fluent in the language,
right.
and he really gave himself to Japan.
You got to
And
respect it,
absolutely.
right? Like,
To care about everything that deeply that he literally became Japanese. I mean,
right. And he was a very early inspiration for where I would like to go in my career myself. A lot of wrestlers have different goals in their career, and I want to have my hands on a little bit of everywhere. But my one of my big main goals in pro wrestling is to sign a long-term deal with Japan and win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, because
that's
a
awesome.
lot of my goats, you know how the IWGP titles would have the old nameplates on the sides of them.
Yeah.
If you ever read the nameplates of the junior heavyweight title, it reads like a murderer's row of the greatest wrestlers to ever live: Liger, Benoit, Eddie, Owen. Like
Yep.
all of these great wrestlers, and that's the belt I would like to hold one day. And when it comes to Kenny, like, to see someone from not even a big fact that everyone always not even forgets, but I feel like skirts over, not even American, Canada. Like, to
Right.
be from Canada and fly across the world, embark in the culture, learn about the culture, gain notoriety in the culture to the level of where you're pretty much a kind of like a local hero now within Japan. Like, everyone knows you, you're welcome everywhere, and you're from Canada. You're just a kid from Canada.
Yeah.
Like, that's a crazy story to embark on, and that was a very, like, early on in my career, I knew what I wanted to do because of Kenny Omega. I knew where I wanted to take my wrestling career. I would love to step foot in AEW, step foot in Ring of Honor, step foot in the WWE, step foot in Impact, but it's like Japan is just what's calling. That's what's really calling.
Yeah.
And
And
who knows after that? Go to the WWE
and
after.
and I have no doubt that you'll end up there at some point.
Neither do
I
I. I think that's where all routes go for me personally. And I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
I just to manifest that out, and put that in the universe. Like, I think that's where, by hook or by crook, I'll find my way in Japan somehow. And I'll even ask myself while I'm in Japan, like, yo, how did I get here? It's crazy how I'm standing in here right now, but how did I get here?
Yeah, yeah. And one final thing I'll say about Kenny, I feel sort of a strange kinship with him because about 7 years ago I had got diagnosed with diverticulitis and ended up having the same type of surgery that Kenny did. And
Wow.
with some minor dietary changes and such, I haven't had any further problems with it. It was.
Mhm.
But yeah, I lost about 3 feet of my colon.
Wow.
But it was good to see that match that he had with Gabe Kidd.
Mm.
And to see that he's back, he's recovered, and he's operating at pretty near the best bout machine level again.
Right. And that was one thing that even back when I was watching Kenny and Okada years ago, I had ideas and thoughts of like, I wonder how long Kenny can really go like this. And ironically, if you remember last year, Kenny and Kota both got injured pretty severely.
Yep.
Both of them were put on the shelf indefinitely. And oh,
You're back.
hello?
Maybe. Hey, you there?
Hello? Oh, are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Can you
Are
hear
we
me?
good?
Are you hearing me?
Hello?
Hey, are you hearing me?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Hello?
Yeah. Are you not hearing me? Well, in the meantime, let's see here.
All right, are we good?
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, good.
Sorry about that. I had got a call. Someone didn't know I was on this podcast.
Oh, no problem, man. I'm just glad that we're back.
All right, cool. I'm sorry. What was the last question?
Oh, well, we were actually just sort of waxing eloquent about Kenny Omega.
Oh yeah, right. Right.
So, moving on to the next question, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent? Who would Dante Darko love to work?
You said present or past?
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero, 100%.
Yeah.
Past Eddie Guerrero, just to give them both past Eddie Guerrero and current day Mike Bailey, Speedball Mike Bailey.
Ooh,
yeah,
that'd be a banger.
Wealth of knowledge. I've said it before, and I'm gonna keep saying it until that match comes upon, and I get to be on the receiving end of it. But I feel like when you go against Mike Bailey, whether you want to or not, you leave that match learning something. Be it when you're putting the match together with him, when you're doing the match, during the match, whatever. Something clicks where you're like, whoa, this guy is good. This guy knows what he's doing. Just like while watching him.
Yep. So what is your favorite move? Is there something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you either won't do or you would rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
My favorite move is the finisher I use, which is my spiral tap. And I use it because I feel like it's a move that not too many people on the indies are doing right now.
Hmm.
It's something that can stand out on a show, something that's really cool and flashy, and something that gets the you remember back in the old days of flash cameras where you would see the cool move and the flashes would go off with the cameras.
Yeah.
That's why I utilize my spiral tap and why my favorite move is my spiral tap. But a move that I wouldn't do, giving or taking, is probably, man, I'm gonna be real. There's not much I won't take.
Hmm.
Um, just obviously it's very situational, depends on who I'm in there with, but
Right.
um, I would say vertebreaker. The vertebreaker is like a very unpredictable move. You have to know what you're doing with that move, or you can severely hurt someone.
Yeah. That move has always given me the willies to watch.
Yeah,
Because it just seems like there is so much that could go wrong and catastrophically wrong. I mean,
right, right. That's a move that and I guess there is no other name for it that I've known about it, but the Owen driver, the
oh
Steve
yeah,
Austin Owen driver, that
yeah,
that move gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like to see that move because I'm like, yo, that's a regular pile drivers are one thing, but when I can see a pile driver, and for that split second before they hit the ground, when I can see the crown of their head past the thighs of the person, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm freaked out. I'm freaked out. I can't watch the
yeah,
impact. They get to the back, and the first thing I'm doing is like, "Yo, are you okay? Can you stand? Are you good?" And then they give me
yeah.
the handshake. I'm like, "All right, cool. You're insane. Don't take a pile driver like that." I'm usually like the responsible
No,
one. Don't do that. Why are you doing that to yourself?
gotcha. So you've been doing this long enough that this probably applies. So I'll ask, what hurts right now?
Everything, everything from my toes to the top of my head and everything in between. I'm fortunate enough right now to not be dealing with any kind of grueling injuries. I'm blessed to not have any kind of broken bones or anything throughout wrestling yet. I haven't had any. There's this old saying that my coach used to tell me, and it was a real athlete knows the difference between being injured and being hurt. So,
Yep.
I've been hurt a few times, but I've never been injured to a severe extent. I've caught myself on, crutches for a good week and a half or something like that, but I'm back right in the ring. So
Gotcha.
right now we're good. My shoulder's a little banged up. I got tossed Eddie Hendricks. I'm sure you're familiar with Eddie
Oh
Hendricks at
yeah,
this
yeah,
point.
yeah. He's been on.
I got suplexed to hell. He threw me from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring. And I'm a little guy, and I knew what it was going to be. The second he comes up from behind me, wraps the arms around, I just got kicked in the head by Jay Tyler. I'm out of it. He wraps up the arms from behind me. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to just look around at all of these people and just hope and pray that I land not out of the ring. And sure enough, I almost went out of the ring. If the ropes weren't there, I would have been out of the ring. He's a monster of an
Gotcha.
athlete.
He is. He's a big fella.
Yeah, a
uh,
little bit of
uh,
everything, but I'm good. I'm good. We're good.
so, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling?
I think it's great. I think the usage of social media to, well, for one, the ability to have something such as social media to be able to promote yourself and to network yourself has, I think, opened a door to so many wrestlers now to so many different audiences that a lot of audiences I don't think would have been able to get exposed of without social media. You know, you see
Right.
a lot of your favorite wrestlers, a lot of our favorite wrestlers coming up throughout history. You know, they didn't necessarily have social media, but there was a web of tape trading, and that can be looked at, or like even past that with message boards. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, early on in the message boards days, like there's always been that small web of people in a niche group trying to get the word out. Where's this happening? What's happening next? What's, you know, what are the details over here? Nowadays, it's so saturated that you can't tell what's a lie, what's the truth, what's this, what's that. This person's heading here, this person's got problems over there. There's so much happening, and you can look at it on both ends of being good and bad, but at that point, you know, you choose to take a perspective on it. And my personal perspective is, if it's going to get wrestlers jobs, then it's good, no matter how you spin it. You know, if it's getting wrestlers booked, if it's getting wrestlers money and helping wrestlers take care of their lives and their families at home, then it can't be a bad thing.
Not at all. Not at
Hmm.
all. Um, so, knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Uh, I said the sit down, shut up earlier. A lot of that, a
Yeah.
lot of sit
Yeah.
down, shut ups. But I'm a very big proponent in not being afraid. Get over fear early on in your career, and that's on all aspects up and down the board. Wrestling, you come to find, is a very daunting thing to embark on, as especially when you're going from a fan going into this world, you know, because at one point in your life, you're looking at all these great stars and you're like, wow, you know, I would love to be amongst that. And then you get amongst that, and then it becomes very high tension, high stress level, very intense. And you have to be able to shut all that out, shut out the fear, shut out the intimidation, shut out the stress, shut out all of that. Be more gung ho for it all. You know, be more excited for it all. Don't be afraid to mess up in your match. You know, you're gonna. 4 years ago, I was afraid to mess up the slightest detail in my matches. 4 years later, you know, I'm still weary about messing up my match, but at the same time, like I'm accepting that I've had hundreds of matches since that point, and I will have hundreds of matches since this point. So, you know, some matches are going to be better than the others. Chris Jericho himself said that in his book. You know,
Oh yeah.
some of them are stinkers, and then some of them are, you know, at WrestleMania.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
that's one big thing that I would tell myself early on is shut out fear early on. Don't worry so much. Just kind of enjoy yourself and have fun. There's no point in having a wrestling career if you're not gonna have fun. And I will die on that hill. There is zero point in being a wrestler if you're not trying to have fun.
Yep. I mean, there's really no reason to have a life if you're not having some fun. I mean,
Precisely.
you know, yeah.
And especially with wrestling, because you know I'm sure other wrestlers can attest to this, but wrestling is not lavish. Wrestling is a very grueling business that will test you at times psychologically, mentally, like emotionally. Like, are you good enough? Will you ever be good enough? Physically test you, like, you know, push you past injury, push you past. There's some wrestlers surgery, emotionally keeping you away from your family and all that stuff and people you love. It's a taxing business, so it's gonna just do nothing but be grueling. So the most you can do throughout all of that is try to have a little fun. Try to
Oh
enjoy
yeah.
yourself a little bit. I have to, amongst, you know, myself and my peers, I have to tell them all the time, like, hey, remember why we got into this business? Because we
Yeah.
love wrestling, because we loved it before we got into this business. So love it now. I understand booking decisions can be annoying, or traveling can be annoying, or money is sometimes hard, and it's not easy to do any of this stuff. But no one ever said it was going to be easy, and I die on that hill too. No one ever said wrestling was easy. So if we're going to do it, we got to do it right, and we got to do it how we see it.
Yep. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So last night I had a tag team from Denver, Colorado, JK Pop, and they they actually wrestle for Rocky Mountain Pro out in the Denver area. If you've never caught any of Rocky Mountain Pro's stuff, check them out on YouTube. They're putting out some good product.
I think I've seen Rocky Mountain Pro before. I'm sure I have. They sound very familiar.
Yeah, D'Lo Brown is the head trainer out there, and I actually think Vince Russo is involved with some of the creative as well.
Okay, I think I've heard of D'Lo running that area before. I think that's what rings a bell.
Yeah, but the question that they posed is, what can you do in 2025 to take indie wrestling to the next level?
What can I do in 2025?
Yeah.
To take indie
What can
wrestling
you
to the
do?
next level? I can ride alongside my top team brothers, and we can take the professional wrestling scene all over the United States and international by storm, because there's 10 of us and there's 10 young, strong, hungry talent amongst the top team, all the way up from Teriyaki all the way down to me and everyone in between. We can take over this whole scene of wrestling all the way up into the big leagues. So that's what we can do. I can group up with my faction, my boys, and we will take over this whole dancing shebang quick. I promise.
So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you the next guest tomorrow night, I've got another guy from the four. I've got DJ Bruner.
Bruner, I love grass fed. Big grass fed Bruner. Okay. I would like to pose the question of where do you see yourself professionally in 5 years?
How would you answer that?
Shoot, signing a 5-year deal on a Japanese contract. Signing a nice little 5-year deal for a Japanese contract with a nice 6-7 figures on it. That's where I want to see myself in 5 years. That's where I'm going to see myself in 5 years. Not even one.
You'll be there.
Absolutely.
I have no doubt.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way.
So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Let's see, what do we have coming up? We have DWA. We have DWA Brews and Infused that's going to be running not January but February 21st, and we're going to be having RIPW running Unshackled 2, the big anniversary show. We've made it a full calendar year on a backstage level and on a on-screen level. We're all just happy and amazed that we made it this far. So this is our big blow-off show of all of the stories we've had. We're going to have everyone featured in some kind of role, so everyone make sure to make it out to that one. Be on the lookout for the show graphic to drop soon. We're working out a date right now, and we really have a date worked out. We're really just trying to figure out a date on when to let everyone else know when we're going to announce, but we have a date scheduled. So just be on the lookout for that.
Very good. Before I let you go, this coming Saturday is Saturday night's main event. I've got the card, and I want to get your predictions.
Okay. I've been keeping up with Netflix on Raw too, so I can tell you what everything's looking like right now.
So the first, these are in no particular order, but match number 1, we've got Braun Breaker and Sheamus for the Intercontinental. Who do you got?
I got Braun Breaker retaining because I don't think Big Sheamus needs the title to be a guy, you know? I think we all love Sheamus as it is, and we all know he's an ass kicker. So, like, I think he doesn't need the title. Would I like to see the title on him? Absolutely. But I think Braun Breaker, he's young, he's new. Putting the title on him looks good. Keep it on him.
I agree. I mean, the only reason I'd like to see Sheamus get it is to get the what do you call it, the Grand Prix or the
the Grand Slam championship.
That's the Grand Slam. Yeah, because he's never had the IC.
Wow, that just really threw a big monkey wrench in there. I still think Braun. I
do too.
He's just so young in his career, especially on the main roster. Let him get a nice little lengthy reign, especially coming off of like Gunther's reign. Like, he doesn't have to have as long as a reign as Gunther, but give him a nice little lengthy reign after that, because I feel like it's just kind of been moved around a little too quickly ever since he's lost the title.
So moving on to the next one, we've got Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax.
That's an easy one. Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's going to riptide Nia Jax. That's what's going to happen.
For sure. For sure. I mean, it's really too soon since she won the belt back for there to be any suspense about the outcome.
And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's good to give the people just what they want, what everyone's gonna ask for. And we don't know. There might be some kind of whatever that may happen, but as far as just looking at what we're given, yeah, you're right. She just came back. She just won the title. Raw just went to Netflix. She just won the title on that night. So, yeah, no, she's gonna hold that title for a good long while. Agreed. Oh my Lord. I don't know. This is the hardest match on the whole card for me.
Yeah.
Because I want Jey Uso to win. But I don't think he's going to. Yeah, I don't either. It's rough. That's rough. I don't want to accept that reality, man. Yeah, it's but it's also like on one
I think it's going to be a fun match.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be a banger. I think it's going to be very good. I think it's going to be a lot of just we've seen from whether you want to look at Walter or Gunther, it doesn't matter the name, it doesn't matter the promotion. We've seen what this man is able to do, and especially when he's in a position of prominence on top, when he's just kind of running things. And Jey Uso is easily one of their best underdog, baby faces, crowd love guys. I want Jey to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. Not here. Maybe down the line, maybe at Mania. I don't know against who, but maybe at Mania, but I don't think it happens here.
No.
Gunther got it. Oh, this is going to be a banger. I love big bumping meat.
This one I am really jazzed about.
That one's going to be crazy.
Just to see these two lock it up.
I'm sure we both got Jacob Fatu.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Locked in.
Yeah. But it is going to be extraordinarily physical. I mean,
you think Jacob does the pop-up Samoan on Braun?
I would love to see that happen.
I think he can. I think he can easily do it, which is scary to think about. That he can easily probably do that.
Yeah.
Great lineup of matches.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a fun card to watch for sure.
I like the whole Saturday night's main event thing rolling around again. They're just putting on like little 4 or 5 match super cards.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
For sure. And I just want to thank you, Dante. This has been an absolute blast. I just nerding out about this stuff with like-minded people is just such a pleasure.
Right.
I mean,
hey man, I appreciate you having me here. I appreciate the platform. I always appreciate any platform I get to be a part of, and be able to plug my stuff, tell my story. Give advice whenever asked about, it's really cool to know that I'm invited on.
Oh yeah. Well, you can consider yourself part of the Throwdown family now, and you've got a standing invitation to come back anytime you want. So
I appreciate it. Maybe get me and Neji on here together at one point.
That would actually be really cool.
Get both the assassins on here.
We should make that happen.
We will definitely curate this, and we'll get together and make this happen.
But like I said, tomorrow night at 7, I've got DJ Bruner. Thursday night at 7, I've got another Georgia-based but kind of well-traveled wrestler, The Wall, Tyler Stevens.
Oh man, it's such a great wrestler right now. If there's one thing that I do plug on this podcast, wrestling promotions on the indies right now, work with Tyler while you can, because he's not going to be on these indies for a long time. I promise you. Work with him while you can.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to talking with him. So. And then this coming Tuesday, the 28th at 7, I've got a wrestling manager and yacht rock aficionado, the Commodore Brentwood Sinclair from out of California, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's far west. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's got an interesting persona going, and he's going to do at least part of the show in character. So that ought to be a treat.
I will tune in and I will see. I want to see what this character is like.
Yeah. And, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, subscribe, spread the word. And, like I said, I'll be back tomorrow night. And in the meantime, be good to each other, love each other, and keep